Are we audio only? Are we go to YouTube?
I usually throw a few clips on YouTube, just like a couple little highlights, and then full interview on the podcast, audio wise, and all that good stuff.
Well, in that case, I'm glad Yancy's got his Deka beater shirt on.
I wore it on purpose. Research shows, when Jason, I know this, it's the same 20% of people that always had the gym memberships. If we look at that 80%, and even they walked in, we wanted the vast majority of them to be able to see what was going on and say, you know what, I can do that. Very rudimentary. When you think 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, when it wasn't fitness and exercise, it was just survival. We were getting on the ground, getting off the ground. We were pushing things and pulling things. We were lifting things up. We were carrying things. We were climbing up and over something. 3 rudimentary forms of transportation: rowing, cycling, and skiing. It is all the most basic. Each movement by itself is so extremely basic. And we couldn't have anything. When the 4 of us open that gym and these people walk in, we didn't want a single thing to scare them. Mm-hmm. Now, we love to say in the same arena on the same day, using the exact same standards, I don't care who you bring in, the best cyborg athlete on the planet, they're going to get their ass handed to them because they're going to hit it hard and it's going to crush them. We see it all the time. But in the same arena on the same day, using the exact same standards, 99% of those 1,000 people that walked into the gym today is like, they earned their mark. They're going to do it. And we've seen that in 4 events at our Deka Fit events. We've had 100% completion with the open category. We've literally never had an open category person not finished. Now they're out there, as JC said, a lot of them walking that 500 meters that precedes each zone. In our gym events with Deka Strong and Deka Strong, where there's no running, Deka Mile, where it precedes by 160 meters for each zone. Same thing. We have like 99+% of people sight unseen. They walk in, first time they've ever done a Deka event, and they're finishing. And you know, that was just so important.
Hey guys, can I share a quick story?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
When we launched a road trip, we called it the Deka Road Show down in Florida, because Florida was on another planet during the pandemic, right? And
this is true.
You know, we graciously reached out to our vendors, all of our equipment vendors, and said, "Hey, we want to do a road show in Florida. Can you help us out?" And every single one of them said yes. You know, and next thing I know, Yancy and I it was almost like being back at Fort Bragg. We were 16 days on the road together in a van, and we were just calling gyms and saying, "Hey, we want to put on a fitness event for you, and it's for all levels of fitness." And you know, the first day was at Pearson Fitness in Jacksonville, Florida, and I know Joey Pearson, the owner, really well there, and he opened his doors, and it was just the perfect setting because we had every level of fitness there. They loved it. You know, they were excited. The energy was through the roof. And we were, you know, Yancy and I were still learning as we went because we hadn't hosted an event at that point in time yet. And so then the next day we go to Get It Core Fitness, another one of our affiliates. And then, you know, as Yancy calls them, a bunch of cyborgs, and they're at a high level, you know, of fitness over there. And they had a blast with it. So we had that general fitness gym, and then we had the elites. And then the third night we're at Trinity Fitness in Jacksonville, and there was a guy named Matt, and he was just there to help judge, volunteer, support his fellow members. And he was there all night counting reps, you know, for like 3 hours. And I remember him saying something to one of his buddies. He says, I think I want to try it out. And he was just, why? He saw everybody else doing it. Why couldn't he do it? Okay. So anyway, he goes through the course. Now it's getting late. And, you know, Deka Strong, you know, if you're general fitness, it's going to take anywhere from 20 to 28 minutes. You know, we're getting deep into the 40-minute zone. And the gym owner at the time was about to close the doors. And I said, "Hey, you got to go over to Deka Zone 10. And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because there's a moment that's about to happen. When you've been in the gym business, you know when a magic moment's about to happen." I said, "It's going to be a moment you never forget, It's going to be a moment that crowd around him is never going to forget. And he certainly is not going to forget it. And they started counting the reps. He got to his burpees. He gets to 16, 17, 18. He finishes that last burpee. And you guys know this. You throw that ram down, right? Like you are done. As Yancy says, Deka done. And Matt, though, he gently placed the ram down, straightened out his glasses, pumped his arms, and people went ballistic.
Yes.
And Yancy and I are in the corner crying. Right?
Full-blown tears. Rolling.
That's when we knew that we were onto something. That's what it was for. It was for the mats. It was for the general fitness. It was for the elites. It was for OCR competitors. It was for CrossFitters. That's what we discovered for 2 weeks on the road. And you know what? We're not going to apologize for anything. We're not going to apologize when somebody says, oh, the weight's got to be heavier. Dude, when you get to zone 8, you tell me that it needs to be heavier because you're getting your ass kicked.
Yeah. Can attest to that.
Yeah, and if it's not heavy, it's because you've gone in too slow and you didn't get your heart rate high enough.
Or you probably skipped a station.
So
your personal perspective, what do you think is the hardest of the 10 stations?
Oh, well, we didn't do too much of a deep dive into the method to the madness, but it is a slow build. And, we start, I promise I'll get you a good answer, but I know Jarod brought up that we might do a little deeper dive into the method to madness. And we start out with that basic movement of, if you've ever knelt down to pick something up off the ground, you're basically doing alternating lunge. One leg goes back, one leg is in front.
Right.
We just put a little burden on the shoulder with that ram. And then we jump into the rowing, arguably the most rudimentary form of transportation. Rowing's been around for thousands and thousands of years. It was basically the first form of transportation other than just being on our feet or riding on an animal. And then, getting up and over the obstacle. One of the reasons we love the sit-up so much is there's an argument to say that might be the most old school rudimentary. Maybe that was one of the first exercise movements. Let's do a sit-up. And then we threw that heavy ball in there so you can, you got to take it back behind your head to work on the shoulder mobility and then bring it all the way. So it really added some upper body into that core stabilization exercise. And then we go to ski erg, and things start to get a little hairy once you get on zone 6, because we fatigue the grip. And I love how there's so many OCR athletes that are come to us like, man, this Deka really hits my grip way more than I would have ever expected when I trained for it. So then you do that heavy farmer's carry. Well, now your grip's blasted, and people don't realize how aerobic that farmer's carry is and how high your heart rate gets and what a full body burden it puts on you. And then you finish that farmer's carry. And when you finish 6, you were coming up to what I call the Deka gateway. Some call it the gateway to hell. And that's the air bike. And that's Deka zone unlucky number 7. If you pulled 1,000, I'm going to give a rough stat. I bet JC would agree with me. If you pulled 1,000 people that have earned their mark, about 80 to 90% say 7 is their worst. Now, if we would have put 7 somewhere around 1 to 2, it wouldn't be up there. Yeah. But it's kind of that key that opens you up into the gateway. And in 8, 9, and 10 continue to hit really hard. That 60-pound dead ball feels much heavier than that. When you pick it up when you're fresh, it's like, oh, everybody's like, no problem, man. Piece of cake, 60-40. Well, it's hitting them hard. I love the high-level CrossFitters and seeing them struggle with that 60 and 40 because they're coming in with that high heart rate. The tank is the beautiful part about the tank is we had to have sled push pull, arguably the most rudimentary movement of all time. Good old farm work, building something, just work, right? Well, traditional sleds wouldn't allow us to do that because turf, concrete, pavement, rubber floors, it's all different with different sleds. What the tank allowed us to do with the magnetic resistance is gamify sled pushing and pulling. It's basically the exact same feel no matter what surface you're on. The harder you push, the faster that tank will move, but the more resistance bites in and hits you harder. So, and then we had to finish with the ram burpees. Just one, to make our boss extremely happy.
Cool.
But two, I went on about an hour-long podcast one time, and 30 minutes of that podcast was describing why I feel that the weighted burpee is arguably the greatest well-rounded strength training movement the world has ever seen. We put it number 10 in beautiful fashion. So my answer is 7, but 7 through 10 is such a beautiful design of just kicking your ass.
So true.
But everybody, here's the greatest part about it, is almost everybody walking the planet gets through it. So don't let what I just said scare you. You're all going to finish, but if you come hit it hard, 1 through 6 is like this beautiful, well-rounded warm up. And then 7 through 10 just, it hammers you.
That's the one thing I remember.
What's your zone, Yance?
I said 7. I said
Okay.
7.
That's the one thing I remember about the Deka Strong when I did it the first time, is like, I felt really good. And then zone 7, things got real.
Yeah.
And I felt a lot less good after that.
A lot less good. Yeah. Well put. No, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. How about you, Jarod? What do you think's the hardest?
Of course, the air bike's up there for sure. But I'll say this, that the last Deka Strong I did personally, I was on another planet during Deka Zone 10. And I had 8 guys yelling in my ear, and it was like I was in a dream, right? And I didn't feel the pain, but I knew my body was somehow moving. But I don't remember the last 2 minutes of that competition, and I'm gonna blame it on the Ram.